Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. That was much better. It's nice to see everyone. Are you having a good day? Yes. Well, that's good. You look good from this side, so that's great. I wanted to let you know that our president, Alan Page, could not be here this afternoon because a very good, close family friend died, and today is their funeral at Duke Chapel. So remember, Alan, obviously he was very close to this gentleman. So we want to think about him. Well, I understand that we're supposed to have a fire code, but when I got here, there's nothing up here. Who knows the statement? Okay, now hold your hand up and keep it up. Okay, all of you say it together right now.
The red pole.
What in the world would Springmore do without red poles? I don't know. But I looked for it and couldn't find it, but thanks Brenda, wherever she went. Where is Brenda? Well, Brenda found it for me, so I think it's important to read. Thank you, Brenda. Because one of these days, we might need to know it and remember it. So I'm going to read it again for you. And anytime anybody wants to come in and talk, go ahead. Not about something else. Okay. In the event of a fire alarm sounds, please remain in the auditorium and stay seated. Should there be a need to evacuate, a Springmore staff member will direct you on how to leave in an orderly fashion. Please remember not to use elevators and go to the red. Oh, that's beautiful. I think we have the highest member of the staff right here, so we're just going to ask you to lead us in that if that happens, okay?
I would say, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, that's good. Well, speaking of Brandon, you have some introductions to make, I believe.
Yes, sir. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good to see y'all. See so many smiling faces. So yes, we have 3 new staff members that I wanted to introduce. Some of y'all may have met them already, but may not. We put out some publications about them, but in case you hadn't seen them, I want to introduce each one, and we'll have a time where we can come and speak and get to know them a little bit better. But since we have a long program today, we'll just do a quick introduction. But the first one is Matthew Love. Matthew, stand up. All right. Who all's met Matthew so far? Oh, nice. Okay, good. That's right, yeah. Put you on the spot, but I knew he had. So Matthew is our new executive chef, and he comes to us from a community outside of Washington, D.C., and he's worked at retirement communities before and dealt with larger accounts like this. I think Matthew's going to do a great job. I'm glad that y'all already know him. He's been around to interact with y'all, and hopefully we'll continue to improve our dining services program. So, Matt, thank you. Our second gentleman, Justin Williamson. If you're going to stand up, Justin. If y'all give him so a lot of y'all probably met Justin. He is our new chaplain. So he's going to be working with Lori in our chaplain services. He started about 3 weeks ago. Just about right, yeah. So Justin is originally from Texas, UT grad, and then went to Wake Forest Divinity. Is that right, Justin? Yep. Yep. So we're glad to have Justin. It's neat to have a male chaplain here. We've never had that before, so hopefully that may appeal to some of the men and have some better discussion groups and more participation. So thank you, Justin. All right, and last we have Frank Butcher. Frank, if you want to wave and see Frank. So y'all may not have met him, but he's going to be taking Jim Cox's place as our Director of Human Resources. I think everybody knows after 37 years, Jim Cox, at 38 now, is going to be retiring at the end of this month. And so we were able to get Frank to come on board. And in a perfect world, we're going to have some overlap, and that's happened. Frank's been with us. Last week was his first week, so we'll have about a month overlap with Jim. Frank's got how many years in HR experience, Frank? about 15 years in human resource management, worked in different industries before, and I think he's going to be really great. He interacts more with the employees than he does the residents, but the employees have already said how approachable he is and how calming he is and how much good ideas he has. So I think Frank's going to do a great job filling Jim's shoes, so to make sure everybody knew who he was as well. And that's all the introductions I have for now.
Good. Thank you, sir. Let's give them all a nice hand. I've already found a flaw in our chaplain. I've only spoken to him for 2 minutes. You went to the wrong seminary. No, actually, he went to a good seminary. But anyway, I went to a different seminary, and I'm not going to tell you which one. Okay, I have a question for you. My job is, as vice president, is to do the programs. How did you feel about the program with Elizabeth Gardner? Great. How did you feel about the program with Elizabeth Gardner? Okay. And how did you feel about the oldie weds? Very good. Well, I was very pleased with those, and I'm going to tell you now what our program is for next month. And I hope it is a prejudice thing, because I know this man very well. I was his supervisor at one time, and then he became my supervisor. Now, that's kind of embarrassing when somebody goes over you and becomes yours. It's not. It was all just fine. But I'm going to have Doug McMillan here with us on April the 10th. Doug has just retired as the president and executive director of the YMCA of the Triangle. He will speak on the subject, the broad reach and influence of the YMCA of the Triangle area, and that's our area. I think you'll find this very interesting. I have found that a lot of people are not aware of what the Y is doing in this area, and I hope you will all come and hear Doug. He's a good speaker, and he will introduce you to a lot of good services that are done. Okay, today's program is our semi-annual meeting of residents with management and the board of directors. So let's welcome our director back again, Brandon. Give him a nice welcome.
Thank y'all very much. Always enjoyed doing this every year, and got a lot of great questions that residents submitted this year, so thank y'all for that. Took some time to prepare those, and we'll answer those to the best of my ability. And if I don't get as detailed as you had hoped and you submitted it, please just come see me later on this week, and we'll can for sure finish the conversation. I want to make sure we get to all of them, so I'll be as quick and to the point as possible, but still trying to provide as much information to answer the question. So since this is a semi-annual meeting, this is a meeting between the residents, management, and our board of directors. So I'd like to introduce Kyle Dilday from RLA and Mr. David Ammons, our CEO. So from our management office, I think everybody knows them. And I see Mr. Baxley in the back, one of our board members. Mr. Baxley, stand up. We have any other board members here? Is Ms. Walton here? Susan Walton?
There she is.
Okay, sorry, Ms. Susan. Yeah, I can't see you back there. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so they're here if you have any questions you want to ask them afterwards. Thank y'all for being here, and we'll get going. So I always like to do a year in review before we answer the questions, just highlight some of the things we've done in the past year as we're underway in this next year, 2023. So there's 8 different departments I'm going to highlight here with some interesting things I thought y'all would find intriguing that we've done, and some of you may remember, some of y'all may not even have a clue about. So the first one is maintenance. When you do a work order, and there's a lot of them with almost 600 residents, you'll see there's 14,193 work orders requested last year. So that's a lot of work orders that go into our system, and 13,741 were complete. Out of that, the difference of 452 was some that are still in progress. Some were duplicate, which is not bad. You may put it in, and then front desk may put it in. So better safe than sorry, put it in twice. And then sometimes there's inaccurate information that they have to reject and then enter it in again. But that's how the stats actually work. So you'll see 452 is the difference on that. If you live at South Village, you know that we got four big items that were big purchases. 2 new water heaters in South Village, and then 2 new elevators, 11 and 12. Everybody know we got 2 new elevators? That's fine. I know that took forever, and I appreciate y'all's patience on that. Talk about supply chain issues and really backlogged with labor. It was that was a perfect storm, but I'm glad that's fixed. And those are 2 huge things we did last year. We maintenance refurbished 46 new apartments for resident move-ins or transfers. Remember that number. We'll talk about that here again in a minute. We refurbished 5 stairwells. So if you've seen the stairwells, some of them are lighter, kind of lighter gray steps, a lighter carpet. So we've done all those. And then new flooring in both North Village and South Village trash room and recycling room. So those 46 new move-ins that you just saw that Randy and his team had to get ready for move-ins, that is because Beth had 46 new move-ins this year. So we had 46 residents move into Springmore this year. And it was kind of neat to see the contract type. If you know that when you come in, there's 3 choices you can pick from: a life occupancy, a 50% or 100% refund. And then we do direct admissions to HA, which is our home for the aged beds. Those are few and far between, but we do get those sometimes when we have availability. So the makeup of those 46 is 2 direct admits to assisted living, 25 life occupancy contracts. If you remember, that's the lowest amount you can put down, but after 25 months, it amortizes down to 0, so you get nothing back. 50% refund, only 5 people chose that one. And then 100% refund, we had 14 people, and that amortizes after after 6 years, you're eligible to get your money back. But if you move out or leave before then, you have to wait until that time. So second most popular contract type. For the resident care fees, for the 46 move-ins, $10,211,043. And that we had to return refunds for people that left Springmore of $6,116,625. So those are all the RNC funds we have to pay back. And then the average RNC fee for the year was $221,979. I thought that was pretty neat. So all the contract types, that was the average RNC fee that new residents paid when they moved in. For information technology, as most of y'all know, we implemented a new portal, and it's fully integrated with our new digital signage through a company called Touchtown. So Daniel did a great job with that, and the IT committee really helped with that. Another thing, we implemented a 2-factor authentication email system, and that's just extra security for staff when they have emails come to them. We get as many scam emails as y'all do, and there's a ton, and ours are super tricky, and it may look like Frank is emailing me saying he needs some gift cards to give out to the employees at the Employee Recognition Program, and he needs my credit card number. So it looks really legit, but we have to, so we have this 2-factor authentication now that scans a lot of this stuff. And something interesting, we have a cybersecurity insurance, and a lot of policies are requiring you to have this 2-factor authentication before they even will insure you for cybersecurity. So something neat that we had to do. We integrated Works Hubs with the portal and Touchtown. So has anybody submitted a work order through Work Hubs before? All right, great. So instead of having to call the front desk or go by Randy's office, say, hey, I need my walls touched up, or my air conditioner's not working, you can submit the work order straight through the portal, and it goes through the Work Hub system, and it's assigned to him. So that's really neat. We're looking to maybe have a housekeeping function do eventually once we kind of perfect this. We started new cybersecurity training for all staff members. Again, that's tough for us as much for y'all. They're very suspicious, so Daniel makes us do this once a year, or he locks you out and won't let you get back on your email until you do it, which isn't a bad thing. So we do that. And then lastly, we migrated Matrix Care, which keeps all of y'all's electronic medical records, and our retail tracker, which is our point of sale system for the salon or for the bistro, and all that's stored on the cloud now. So that's just a new way of people getting that either on a server, and they put it up in the cloud. So Daniel's able to implement all of that. Spiritual wellness, we had a huge year with that. I'm looking forward to Justin really being a part of that for this year and reporting what he does next year with Lori. But we resumed a lot of in-person things that we had to stop during COVID. Our annual our weekly Vespers in the Health Center, our annual memorial service, staff chapel. We still hold every Wednesday morning at 8:45. That's for all staff members to attend. That's a really nice service that they do for us. A semi-annual meeting in the Health Center for staff. Twice a year we recognize residents that have passed away, and each staff member gets to say a little something about somebody they cared for or got to know really well. So we were able to start that back. And then weekly communion with Catholic, Episcopal, and some Methodist churches here in the community. Education and support. There were 4 book studies that were done. I know there's an Advent book study. There's a Lenten book study. I know 2 out of the 4 they had, and then they had 6 discussion groups. Some were dementia support group. I know some were connection, some were current events. I think one was even about, the study of Lent and anti-racism. I think some of y'all participated in that. It was supposed to be really good, so I know that was popular. And then community outreach this year, all the donations from the annual Thanksgiving service went to the Interfaith Food Shuttle. Stewart Health Center and the clinic. This next one will come up in a question in just a little bit as well. But deficiency-free survey. Last year before Thanksgiving, we had a perfect survey in the health center. So they were here for 2 days, and they look at everything from staffing to medical administration records to training to water temperatures to anything they can turn over and look at. So we had a deficiency-free survey, which is huge. That's only happened one other time in my 17 years of doing this at any community. So really amazing to have that. We filled all nursing administration positions this year. That includes like director of nursing, assistant director of nursing, care plan coordinators, staff development coordinators. So all those nursing administration positions are filled with really, really good staff. Hopefully if y'all have loved ones back there or friends that you've been able to see some of those. We implemented a reoccurring email system for families when their loved one has to go to the clinic to remind them about those appointments. We continue to test all staff and residents weekly when we're in outbreak status. I think everybody knows that's 2 or more cases. And until they tell us to stop, we have to test well over 200 people every week if we get 2 or more cases until we go 14 days without any new cases. That's a ton of COVID tests. That's a ton of woman hours, I'll say, because we have one nurse named Carolyn Mungo who does mostly all the testing, and she is just a road warrior when it comes to that. So a lot of testing still done. We did begin our health center renovation. If y'all notice when you walk down the ramp going into the clinic, that wall sticks out, and behind all of that is our brand new clinic that they're constructing. It's going to be almost twice as big as our current clinic with another exam room, a medical office. So all that was started. Our corridor was started outside. We've got an elevator shaft that we've created that's going to be going up with our new corridor, and then the admin offices that are being constructed right now as well. So we hope that second phase will be done around May. We implemented the household model in the Clayton wing. So that's one of the main things we're trying to do with our renovation is create a household model, which we've talked about a lot. In Clayton wing, since it's set up like that, we've been able to pilot that program in Clayton wing to get it going, train the staff there. So when we're able to renovate the other areas of the household model, we can do all the training back in Clayton wing. So when it goes on board, they'll know how the model operates. And then the last 2 things, we hired Dr. Patel as our new medical director. As y'all know, Dr. Edmondson, after 38 years, retired last year. So we were very lucky to get Dr. Patel to come in as our new medical director. And then also after 25 years, Joyce Isley retired, and we have now Charlotte Jenkins, who's our outpatient services coordinator, who we've hired, and she's doing a great job as well. So those are 2 huge hires for our health center. Life enrichment. We created a new outdoor stage to host more community activities. So we had a few last year. We have a host of events we have planned for this spring and fall. But some we did last year, our grand opening. We had our own Kerry Corley, who's our current healthcare administrator. He did some solo singing, and we had cheese and wine. So that was pretty neat to see him do that. We had a happy fall, y'all, with Frank Rodeker's band and adult supervision. Is Frank here by chance? Is he in the crowd? I think everybody knows Frank. Does everybody know he's in a band? Yeah, and okay, pretty cool name, Adult Supervision. So they were really popular. Saw a lot of y'all dancing out there, so I really like that. And then our fall porch series with the Bloomberries boys, we were able to do that on the stage as well. So looking forward to doing more of that. We also, at the end of the year, implemented a new handbell choir called the Springmore Ringers. Janet Carter started that for us. And from what I understand, I think we're going to start having a choir and actual singing choir, and then the bell choir do something together. Have y'all heard about that? Is that in the works? Okay, yeah, I thought I'd heard that. So that ought to be really neat. And then lastly, for Life Enrichment, we held 5 different Glass Week classes. I know that was very popular. I think there was a waiting list each week that they did that. So that's becoming a very popular activity here at Springmore. Physical wellness. So this is Carrie Ritchie's group and Chris Lawyer. A lot of y'all participate in this. This is by far our biggest amenity that we offer that y'all participate in. So we'll start at the bottom with classes. We had 1,633 classes taught last year with a total attendance of 12,533 people. And I bet Miss Charlene Young went to all of those except maybe one. Is that right, Miss Charlene? Did you attend all those? Too many. That's all right. You're in great shape. She's always like our highest attendance. She's like the perfect attendance resident, every year for the classes. She goes to all of them. So, and then that was a 7% increase over last year. So again, more people are really getting into that, which is neat. And if you jump back up to the top, personal training, that's something we started about 5 years ago. And it was just a service I wanted to offer for people that may want something extra. And it's a fee for service, just like home care, or if you use a hair salon. And we have Chris Lawyer handles and does most of the personal training, but it's increased each year since this started, and last year we ended with 95 residents having at least one personal training session. We had 455 total sessions, so that's really neat. Instead of having to go to a gym to do that, you can just do it right here at Springmore and have somebody help you with that, as little or as much as you want. Security and transportation. There's a lot going on this past year. Jacob and our Security and Transportation Committee was very successful in getting the speed limit reduced on Sawmill Road from 35 to 30 miles an hour. And he also got additional crosswalk signs up. Our ultimate goal is to get a full 4-ways red light out there. That's not happened yet, but this is the first step. We've been trying to do this for years, but I think we're back on path to hopefully eventually try to get that. But these were first 2 big steps in making that happen. We did a revamp our scooter policy, a lot of new requirements with ADA, that things we have to allow residents in certain areas with scooters. In the past, we've been able to restrict that a little bit more, and we can still have our own internal policies, but we can't restrict people from going to certain areas, so we had to revamp that a little bit. We've updated our pet registration forms, and we've identified apartments with pets. I sent out something about that in the memo last week. Purchased new evacuation equipment for North and South Village. Updated our evacuation procedures to go along with that. Transportation has taken over the scheduling of transportation down at the front desk, so that's all in one central area now. And then we implemented the access control for all the main entrances, and those are the locked doors. We'll talk about more in a minute, but that's something that I was really proud of. It's probably the best thing I think I've done since I've been here almost 8 years. Not that I've done this, happened while I've been here, is I had nothing, I didn't do it. I just kind of helped see it through, to have those locks on the doors, because that's something that residents were very vocal about and very passionate about in a good way. And it came up through committees, and it was done the right way, and everybody was on board, and it was just a really smooth process. So glad that happened. And lastly, in administration, had some really good achievements I didn't want to overlook. The first one is promotion of Brad Dilday to Associate Director. We hadn't had Associate Director in many years since Mr. Ammons and Mr. Dilday worked here together. So I'm really glad to have Brad help me. I know everybody knows him, and he's a breath of fresh air, and he's taken on about half the department, so we can spend more time with 6 departments each, roughly 6 to 7. So we're really glad to have him. And then both Richard and Brad completed their administrator and training program, and the administrator training program is on average a 9-month course that you have to do under a licensed preceptor in a nursing home to enable to sit and receive your nursing home administrator's license. So both of them were able to do that under Carrie Corley, and both have their administrator's license for a nursing home. Jacob Hollingsworth, our Director of Security and Transportation, he went through the Leading Age North Carolina Leadership Academy, so he graduated. Richard Settle's been through that as well, so I have another fellow that did that. And lastly, it's one I'm most proud of, we hired Jessica Linares as our new business office manager. So Jessica works with me. I think y'all probably know her. She's been great. She took over for Tracy, and really glad to have her. So that is the end of our presentation here for the year. Again, it's just a few little snapshots of things I thought was important to recognize, and some major highlights. But with that, we can jump into these questions if y'all want to. Some of these have already been answered, so some of them I may be a little more brief than others, and some of them I'll provide a little more explanation. But we'll just go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to have Mr. Ammons he's going to address one of the questions here about halfway through. I'll break it up, take a sip of this water, and then I'll jump up and finish the last few. So the first few questions happened, they pertain to food in the meal plan. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. The first question we'll know is how many vacancies are in dining services by title and vacant position. So as of the last job openings report that Mr. Cox and soon will be Mr. Frank will give out. I think it's over this section. Here it is. We do these internal job postings every week at Springmore. I always try to promote from within if all possible. These ones I've crossed out have already been filled, but there are 5 open positions in dining, and those pertain to a dietary aide in the health center, 2 utility staff members, a grill attendant, several part-time wait staffs, and a hospitality aide. So those were the openings we had for dining services. Let's see. The next question here is why do we consistently have comments about consistency in our dinner meals? In 2.5 years, this has been the main food complaint, and that's a very good question. Food consistency is a hard thing to do for 600 people and 1,000 meals a day. And that's something we hope that we can get better with Matthew here. We've got Mike Davis over in South Village, who's our sous chef over there. We have another gentleman named Jamie, who's our lead cook over here in North Village. And I know that's one of Matthew's main reasons of why we brought him. He's operated at a larger community before. Our last chef was very good, but he did not operate on such a large scale. When you're preparing for 600 people, about 1,000 meals a day, consistency's tough, especially when you have a 30-day menu and you have 3 different entrees, 4 different sides, and that's times 30 days. You know, I always think about how Waffle House is always so good. Every time you go to one, they have a select number of things, and that's the only thing they cook all the time. There's no turnover. There's, McDonald's, there's not much preparation. There's not much, ingredients or things of that nature. So that's why it's so consistent. But Matthew will be working on that. That's just one of the harder things to do at a community, but we're looking into that. And then the last one is about our meal service plan. It says, after lobbying for a reduced meal plan, Springmore developed one with the caveat that unused meal funds would not roll over to the following month. Now, with the guest meals being raised to $22, that puts a burden on those using the reduced plan. My children and their families fly into Raleigh a few times a year to visit, and I've had to use my meal plan to cover some of their meals. With the increased guest meals of $22, can the reduced meal plan be changed to roll over unused meal funds for the following month? So unfortunately, that was something that we decided early on from the board of when we did create a second meal plan, that caveat would be in there that you would not be able to roll over. So that's the beauty of Spring, where you get choices, and you get the choice of the full meal plan, which is a larger allocation, and you can roll over up to a whole month. And if you want the reduced meal plan, that's one of the stipulations is that you can't roll over. Since we're giving you a discount on that, and you're not taking as many meals, we're not rolling it over. The thing I do suggest is if you're getting close to going over your meals, or if you're going out, or if you need to know how close you are, get with the people in accounting. They can tell you, and then we'll be, before too long, we'll be seeing who wants to jump on or off the plan. And again, it's just all about personal preference and choice. If you're single, or if it's just you and your spouse and you don't have any friends or family here, the reduced plan is probably great for you. It's plenty enough. But if you have family here that comes a lot, or friends that come all the time, maybe you want to be on the regular meal plan. So it's just all about what's best for you. All right. Then we have another question about meal plans, and it says, "Does the activity person tell food services how many residents are going out for lunch or dinner?" We do not do that. We've never done that. That's something we can simply do. Leah can let Matthew know how many are people that are going in each activity of a dining outing in the pathways. But since we batch cook everything for lunch and for supper, and we prepare it obviously batches at a time, we're able to eliminate and cut down on food costs and food waste. So that's why we've never worried too much about that. But that's something we can for sure look into if needed. The next one deals with taxes and medical taxes. So this one's, I won't get into the whole explanation, but this resident was just asking when they would receive their information about their medical taxes for Springmore. And I know everybody's received that. I think everybody gets that before the end of January. Did anybody have that by the end of January? Yeah, okay, good. So if you have not got it for some reason, please let the folks in accounting know, and they'll get it for you. But I think this was just submitted before that, so we always have to have it to you before the beginning of January. Another question was, how is the portion of our resident fee attributed to Stewart Health Center calculated? So remember from Philip's presentation last year for the 2023 budget, he has how each dollar makes up Springmore, the breakdown of a dollar. And I believe last year 23 cents of every dollar goes toward the health center. So that was the latest calculation that we had. All right. The next one was, this talks about the zero deficiency, which we talked about earlier. This was a great question. I know I had a lot of people, and I was excited to answer this because I wanted to tell everybody how thankful we should be. So it's my time to kind of make sure everybody knows. But the question is, recently CMS released a study of CMS certified nursing homes. CMS is Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. What is the rating of the Stewart Health Center, and how does it rank among other nursing homes in the Triangle? The NNO had an article about it, and Stewart Health Center was not in the top 10. We are very lucky to be one of 9 private pay nursing homes in the entire state. There's over 70, and we're one of 9. I confirmed that with our executive director of Leading Age. So we don't participate in Medicare or Medicaid, and that is a blessing on more ways than I can explain right now. But we have our own really neat system of E-days that we have, but we're not in the ranking because that only the rankings are done by Medicare and Medicaid services who receive government funding. So that's why you won't see that. But remember, and tell all your friends, we had a deficiency-free survey just like anybody else. They're just not going to publicize it on any government website. So that is what that is all about. The next one is, and this was a really good question because I'm sure I've addressed it at least 5 times, but I don't know the last time I have, so this was really good to do. Had resident asked, why are there no protocol documentation concerning independent living COVID illnesses, including monitoring symptoms, vital signs, and after effects? So I went through, I found about 65 memos I wrote during COVID, and I used to do that little weekly TV thing. And I know several times I address what to do at various stages of COVID. It's don't come out for 14 days and don't come out for 10 days. And you can get your mail, but you can't go to the dining room. It just changed constantly. So I could never find where we finally ended up. But I think most people knew just to call the clinic. And the clinic's the point person it's like the command station, and they will let they'll let dining services know to have your food delivered. They will let housekeeping know not to come by. You just put your dirty laundry out. They'll bring you fresh laundry outside of your door. They coordinate everything. But I had Charlotte Jenkins, who's our outpatient coordinator, come up with a whole new protocol, and this should be up on the portal now. Have y'all seen this? Okay, good. So it's so it tells what to do when you test positive for COVID, what to do, what to look for, and it basically just reiterates calling the clinic. But it does break it down, and I think the one that may be on the clinic may be a reduced version to make it a little bit more simpler. So this was a good question that a resident raised, and I'm glad that we're able to create that because it has changed so much, and hopefully we're at the last stage of what we'll have to do in the COVID protocol procedure. So. All right, this is the last one I'm going to answer, and I'm going to let Mr. Ammons hop up here. The next one is talks about a traffic pattern over in South Village. I'll try to explain what this is. As you enter the parking lot going to the back of the South Building, so if that's the one going behind Valley is where I believe they're talking about, there's a white line that divides traffic. So why don't we have a white line as we're coming back up the lot? So if you're coming behind Valley, behind the pool, and you go up, you can go right to go out. Well, the only way you can go is right to go out. If you go left, it's like a one-way. We have those two lanes, one that turns to the left to go around the circle, and one that turns right to go down where they're talking about coming up from. So it clearly indicates an arrow going this way, which would indicate not to go in. It'd be one way, but a resident was suggesting we put a do not enter sign right there at that curb right there to not turn to the left, only go out to the right. So I'm going to make sure the Building and Grounds Committee looks at that. And if they feel that we need to have a sign put up, we can easily do that. I've not heard that before, but I don't want anything to be endangered, so we will pass that along to Building and Grounds to see if they think a sign should be put up for that. So, all right, Mr. Ammons, I'm going to take a little break here, and I'm going to let you talk for a minute.
Okay. I think he said he's going to let me hop up here. That won't be happening, but I'm happy to join you. I will say on that note, it was intriguing to me. I've been here in June will be 38 years, and Dr. Edmondson sounds like he got to 38 and retired. Jim Cox got to 38 and retired, so I don't know if those were by choice, but I think they were. I was being facetious. So I'm not planning to retire. But they did ask me to speak to one of the questions that was sent in, and I want to tell you up front, it is a highly charged topic to some people, maybe a lot of people. I don't know the quantity of the area. That's an example of, I don't know how pervasive. But, and it has to do with the policy that was changed few months ago, I guess it was, by the board concerning political campaigns and political people being here. So if you're watching me on TV or recording it, I'm not trying to split every hair and be exactly right to every sentence, but I want to stay broad for just a minute and share what I believe is management's suggestion. The board will be meeting again in June, and we will there try to get some clarification. The question is 3 pages, so I won't read all that to you, but it basically just says we'd like more definition of what the new policy is and what it is not. So I will tell you in a high-level sentence that it is true that for a nonprofit 501c3 entity, you have to be careful about anything political. We can't hire lobbyists, for example. Now, like everything, but so-and-so could, or a group of somebody else could, or, representing us sort of, and so there's always gray hair, but a gray area, gray hair, sorry. But we cannot we cannot cross the bridge to say, today, Jane Doe has got a person running for office in the parlor, and they try to stop you as you walk by, even if it's private, even if they invited you through the U.S. mail, that we just do not want to say our public spaces, public meaning reservable, are being used by candidates. Now, that goes completely away when a person is elected. I will tell you that we've had at this podium over the years Governor Hunt, we've had Senator Price, we've had sheriffs, we've had mayors, anybody that's an elected official. To me, and I believe to most people, or certainly to the board, I hope, view that as they're now public servant, they're now working in the job they were elected for, and I hope that we will have them, when we can, come and give us updates, whether that's the sheriff, whether it's a State of the Union type address, whatever it might be. We should be proud, in my opinion, to get elected officials to come join us and share with us. But we do not want it to be when someone is running for office. Now, obviously, if I am pick one, the mayor, and I'm speaking and the election is next year, I might say something that implies me getting reelected. I can't do much about that. But we do not want to say that at this podium or in a reservable room like a parlor or the great room that someone is there when they're running for office. We think that's a good way to stay away from that issue. The question goes on into several details and divisions of that, so I'm going to touch on those a little bit. The first one I touched on or mentioned is once a person's an elected official, then them being here sounds great. If a person is here to talk about current issues that are not political, which we all know there's a lot of gray area there, but I think that would be great. If a person wants to come in here and talk to us about abortion or lots of things that politics jump into, I think that is fine. We'd like to be current issue oriented and thinking individuals and involved as much as we can in being a good citizen. The third point was about nonpartisan organizations. I think that would be great also. If they're truly nonpartisan, they listed a few here. I don't know all of these, but if a nonpartisan group is organizing, meeting, et cetera, in private rooms and you've brought them here, for example, the one that you list several times is the League of Women Voters. If you're the secretary of the League of Women Voters and you offer to the group that I'm going to reserve our parlor and we're going to have our quarterly meeting there or annual, I don't know how often they meet. I'm not in the League of Women Voters, to some surprise, then we think that would be great too, to let that occur. So nonpartisan sounds great. Obviously, we don't want people to use the bulletin boards or to use the in-house mail for anything that's political. And that really is the bottom line. There's one more. I will actually read this one just so we're all on the same page. It says, can we assume that residents eating together in a dining room or simply lounging together in a residential common area may freely share their political views regarding candidates, issues, current events, etc.? We assume, of course, that residents would have the common courtesy to engage in such conversations only with other residents who are willing to do so and in ways that would not disturb others. This is no different from common decency expectations that would be held with regard to any other sort of conversation held in a public place. I don't think anyone's imagining trying to stop that. You can talk about anything you want to at dinner. I've said for many, many years in this industry that I don't really have to referee a lot of things amongst residents. You all referee yourselves pretty well and take up for yourselves pretty well. So I had a lady recently, on a much lighter note, ask me if her mother moved here, could you bring her cat? And I said, well, you can, but do not let her let that cat out. But then again, trust me, the bird people will let her know that too. So you really don't have to police that. So in summary, that's our goal, is the policy was intended, I think the phrase in the policy 3 times says political action. And what was intended, Mr. Baxley or Susan, help me if you know otherwise, but the idea was during election, during campaigns, during the election season, et cetera, et cetera. The goal is not related to elected officials. The goal is not recognizing that there are several parties in our state, country, and et cetera. So nonpartisan and elected sounds great, but politically charged is what we're trying to guard against. So we will get more clarification at the next board meeting, and we'll try to let you all know that. I'm sure Brandon will put it in a memo, and we'll change the resident manual a little bit to get that clarified, but that was the intent. We don't always do this, but I want to make sure, are there any questions on that topic alone that I can answer or speak to? I see Peg in her bright Duke blue sweatshirt. That's as politically charged. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Congratulations to the weekend. That's great. All right. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if the rest of mine will be as exciting as that, but we got a few more. The next one resident submitted was about the security doors in the South Village, and I'll kind of summarize this up. I know when we first rolled that out, we had to replace all the sliding doors here at North Village with all new doors, all new locks, so that went in sync perfectly. But we're able to use the existing doors over at South Village and install locks, but they weren't not syncing up at first. So for a while, they were not locking automatically, and then they were having to kind of pry them open like we used to, and then during COVID we used to, and then they were having to hard lock them at night, basically like we used to after 11 o'clock. So there was a resident who wrote about taking their dog out and not being able to get back in because they got used to having the fob that works. But all that's been fixed now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but all those doors are unlocking and locking at South Village with the fob now, right? Okay, good. Yeah, no, that was a little hold up at first, but we had to find the most effective way, cost-effective way of what we already installed to make that work. So I think that's all been taken care of since this has been submitted. But these are all, again, great questions. I'm just glad some of them have already been done. The next one we've talked about several times, and I put a memo out, so I'll just kind of do a little broad highlight on it. But it talks about alcohol in our ABC license, and that's been a hot topic. And the question was asked about why are we restricted from leaving our wine in the refrigerator at the Springs. And I put a memo out on 2-1. This is not the headline version. This was my typed up version before Jessica made it look all nice with the big memo format. But it went out on 2-1 explaining that. And I've had some conversation with some residents. It's been very good to explain all that. And all this has just been such a huge change. But long story short, when we obtained an ABC license to sell beer and wine, which we're not doing yet because this is taking on a whole new thing in itself of this brown bag issue. We're trying to slowly roll it out and get everybody understand it and get our feet wet before we jump in. But when you sell wine and beer to community, you can't intermingle your own wine or beer in refrigerators in the same area, even if they're in different refrigerators. So I verified that with the ALE, that's the alcohol law enforcement. Gentleman came out and was very nice. He said, yes, you can't do that. And if we were not selling beer and wine, yes, we could. But we are eventually going to sell beer and wine. So I think that's died down a little bit. I'm not saying the white wine drinkers are thrilled about it, but I know we're getting some bins with ice. We've got a wine chiller, and I want to get one of those wine chillers that has multiple chillers that you can put in there other than just one to chill it in about 10 minutes. But that's why we cannot keep those anymore because of our permit of retail, even though we're not selling yet. The other thing that was very important was we had a brown bag permit that we had to get, which allows everyone to keep all of their alcohol stored in a locked cubby. And there's about half of the cubbies have been taken so far, and you have to have your own key, and then we keep a key. So everything has to stay under lock and key. That's for y'all's own protection and to keep it. What I did find out is before we had that brown bag permit, we were not supposed to be consuming spirituous liquor in common areas, only in your residence. So if we wanted a Jack and Coke or a vodka and tonic. We're not supposed to be having those in like the bar, the Springs. We needed to have a brown bag permit, so that really had to come on board for us to do that. No harm, no foul. We did it for a long time, but a lot of times these things just change. But that was the reason why about the wine and beer. And I think I've put out. Does everybody pretty much understand that? I think I put out a pretty good detailed memo about that. So. Glad that was kind of been addressed, but I know that was a hot topic, and rightfully so. The next one was about mosquitoes. Very interesting question. It says, I know, right? This is maybe better than the political action. We'll see. I was wondering if something could be done about the mosquitoes. We used Mosquito Authority, and I didn't get a single bite. They sprayed once a month. It was wonderful to go outside and not be bitten. When I walk around for a walk, they bite me here, and I can't sit on my porch. That's terrible. I know it's mosquitoes. Never not been around them, but I'm not. I've heard of Mosquito Authority. I don't really. I assume it's some kind of spray or something that they do. and it doesn't attract the mosquitoes. I'm not sure how good it is for the overall well-being of Springmore with other insects or residents. It's something that I for sure want to look into, and this is another one I want to give to the Building and Grounds Committee to look at. I'm sure there are some people in there that have some good opinion. Mr. Knight, that's your all right? I'll just hand this to you. You're welcome, sir. I'll hand this right to you. So I'll have Mr. Knight kind of spearhead that up and see if that's something that we want to look at, or if there's an alternative. And what I suggest now is looking for individual things that you can put on your porch, not a citronella candle, but there's other types of individual spray that I would recommend that people use as they walk outside on them or around their areas where they're sitting. So we'll kind of see what the committee comes up with. If we're going to do something more broad. All right. The next one is about electric cars. This is something we're trying to be in the forefront of things. We're about 50-50. Some communities have them already, some don't, but I'm glad that we already got a couple in. So I'll tell you a little bit about the answers to each of these questions. There were 4. So electric car charging stations have been installed at Springmore. What effect, if any, will this have on resident fees? And it will not have any effects. I'll go through each one. The first one, are there any electric cars at Springmore? To my knowledge, I don't know any resident yet that has an electric car, but I could be wrong. But I know I have several family members that have those, and I know that's something that's going to be eventually coming, so we want to be a little ahead of the curve and have these chargers installed. We have one in North Village, one in South Village. They have 2 chargers on each stand, so they can do 2 cars at a time. But currently, right now, no cars. Will non-residents have access to this feature? If so, how will this be monitored or controlled as to not interfere with resident use? We're not advertising that to anybody outside of Springmore. There are certain apps. I don't have an electric car, but I understand there are certain apps that you can look around to see where all these charging stations are, and you can go and charge in your car. Like if you go to North Hills behind Target, there's like 20 Tesla charging station, and so you can find you can find maps of where to have those. We're not advertised on any of those maps, and we don't plan to be. It's just going to be for resident and family use. To what extent any associated costs, initial installation, maintenance, repairs impact resident fees? Will charging fees for the use generate enough revenue to cover the cost? So there were nothing affected the resident fees. These were installed last year, and they were funded from our equipment reserves that were already budgeted for 2022. So that didn't have any effect on resident fees last year. And yes, since this is an a la carte service too, kind of like personal training. So if you want to charge your car, you got to pay for it. You got to use a credit card to pay for it, just like I would go, or other people that have gas cars. I guess most of us, because we don't have an electric car yet, you go and pay for gas. So yes, the individual that is charging their car is paying for it, so it's covering the expense of the electricity. So there's no extra expenses being incurred. And lastly, non-electric vehicles are frequently seen occupying the parking spaces around the chargers. How will this be monitored and controlled, not to interfere with the facility and its revenue generation? So we've marked those EV parking spaces. I think they've been highlighted or spray painted in white to denote those are special parking places for those. And security will keep an eye out on that. We haven't been super strict on it lately because there's not a lot of use quite yet, but I know that's going to come. But security and transportation department will monitor that and have people move if they're not an electric car. All right. All right, I have one more. All right. So this pertains to medical transportation, something I know is very popular here and one of the best amenities we have. I always say the transportation, the clinic, I believe, are the 2 most frequently commented positive amenities we have here. Every time I do a survey on transportation or the clinic, they always seem to get super high marks. So I want to make sure we continue that. But this resident asked, sometimes when an appointment is made on short notice, a ride may not be available. The resident may not drive or have access to a friend or family member to get the appointment. Can Springmore help with such situation? So we're working on this, and I think y'all know that 9 times out of 10, we're able to get you an appointment. It is That's one of the things that I know that they really bend over backwards to try to do, but with 600 residents, it's impossible to take everybody to every appointment exactly when you need it, especially if it's last minute. But I feel confident saying 9 times out of 10 we do. But if you look on page 94 of your resident manual, it clearly states several things I want to remind everybody of before we close. It says, Springmore will provide requested transportation when drivers have not already been scheduled for other residents in the Raleigh area for medical or health transportation. We encourage you to make your appointment for transportation as far in advance as possible. Requests for transportation are scheduled on a first come, first call basis. If the transportation schedule is already filled for the time you need, you'll need to make other transportation arrangements or change your medical appointment to another time. The clinic staff is available to help you reschedule. So again, we only have so many drivers, and again, I think 9 times out of 10 we can get you there. But if it's the last minute and we're already booked, it's first come, first serve. So we don't charge for it, and that's a huge amenity that a lot of communities do charge for. They'll charge mileage for transportation, and that's all free, but it is on a needs base. So page 94 of your resume manual will go over that. So, all right, I got about 5 minutes left to give out door prizes. Thank y'all so much for submitting such good questions. Now, some of these were already answered before, but at least I could provide some. And the ones that I hope that y'all found some understanding in those. If, again, you need any more clarity or anything specific, don't hesitate to come by, shoot me an email, and I'll make sure I will get those to you, okay? All right, thank you.
Mr. Hare, Mr. Ammons, thank you so much for being willing to be with us today and to answer these questions that were submitted. Come more frequently. We'd love to have you. Okay, we have where are the tickets? Right behind me? Oh, good, okay.
Matthew, we'll have Matthew pick one.
Somebody said that we need to really, okay, turn your head the other way. All right. Okay. Of course, I assume, are they all the first I'll have to read it all. 027107. Oh, right over here, Brandon. Would you read them back, please, for me?
027107.
That is correct. And who is the winner? Who is the winner?
Mr. Cobb.
Mr. Cobb, congratulations. And we'll meet you at the door, and we'd like you to share it with us. Okay? Okay, number 2. Wait a minute. Okay. All right, here we go. 027105. Woo! Congratulations. And who is this? Who is this lady?
027105.
That's it. That gets it. Well, congratulations to the winners. Thank you again. And our new employees. We're glad to see all of y'all. And that concludes our meeting.